All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into another edition of Diddy or Didn't He with me, Pugs Moran, here on Radio Misfits, radiomisfits.com. Not radiomisfits.com, but Diddy or Didn't He.com will take you directly to the YouTube page where you, if you're so inclined, you can watch the video version of this. But as it stands, you're probably listening on Radio Misfits, radiomisfits.com. All right, every day now, day 23 shows. Every day after the trial, I sit down here and I try to record what it is that I've been able to tell from this trial, this never-ending tidal wave of absolute debauchery and madness. That's what this trial has been so far. Now, I know that there's a lot of things going on in the world, but I have to believe if this trial was on TV, nobody would be caring about protests. Nobody would be caring about Israel and Iran. This trial is suffering from not being on TV because today was wild. Today was wild and barely a mention what with everything else that's going on, but not for us, the truly engaged with the Sean Diddy Combs trial happening in a Manhattan federal courthouse. Okay, so just from the start here, it's been clear now for me for the last couple of weeks that this trial is not going well for the prosecution. The prosecution has decided that they were going to throw charges at Sean Diddy Combs that would have him spend the rest of his life in prison. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion that some of the people in the prosecutor's office, they might be thinking about, career-making cases and that kind of thing. I still believe that he has been overcharged. Now, what we haven't been talking about, I've just been saying that he's overcharged. So let me just reiterate for you what this man is being charged with. It's been 23 days now of us listening to this trial. Has the prosecution proven any of these charges? Okay, here are the charges. Racketeering conspiracy. Now, that's kind of a big one because that's a much larger form of conspiracy. Racketeering conspiracy says that he ran and operated for a number of years a large-scale criminal organization where the entire purpose of it was to be a criminal organization. Everything else was a cover-up. So his hip-hop career cover-up. So his music cover-up, his film acting cover-up, his vodka cover-up, his tequila cover-up. I mean, the guy is a criminal. The guy is criminally minded. But I don't think they're proving racketeering conspiracy. The other thing that he's being charged, he's got 2 charges of sex trafficking and 2 charges of transportation to engage in prostitution. He certainly is flying people around to have sex for freak-offs. Is that enough to get him on transfer? Probably, maybe. I don't know. We'll be throwing the Mann Act at him. All right, so those are the charges. What he's not being charged with is drug dealing, drug possession. He's not being charged with domestic violence, being abusive. He's not being charged with any of that stuff. And any of that stuff is just being offered up by the defense free and clear. Yeah, he beats his women. You're not charging him with that, though. So that's why my position has been that this whole thing is just a big show for the prosecution. And by the way, there is something off. Hollywood, this era, Hollywood is constantly being targeted with nepotism claims. Hollywood, it's just a bunch of nepo babies, nepotism. This whole trial, this is legal nepotism. This trial, do you realize that this trial features former FBI Director James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, versus superstar celebrity attorney Mark Garagos's daughter, Tenny Garagos? It's 2 daughters of 2 legal eagles that have been, historic in their professions, although I don't know that Comey is necessarily a trial guy. Anyway, a lot of weird things happening today. Before everything even got started today, there were big fights. There were big arguments that were going on. The judge, I'll tell you what, we'll just run through it. I don't want to get out of order here. Today, we heard from Special Agent Andre Lamont Andre Lamont. He works for the Department of Homeland Security. He was one of the lead agents that raided Diddy's house. He's going to tell us all the stuff that they found in the house during those raids. We're also going to hear from somebody who I called out yesterday, Jonathan Perez, former personal assistant to Diddy. He is now the third or fourth personal assistant that we've heard from talking about Diddy. Jonathan Perez spends quite a bit of time on the stand today, and he gets into all of his duties as they pertain to just making Diddy's life happy to planning King's Nights. King's Nights are a new term that we are being introduced to. We used to call them freak-offs, and then for a while, Jane had us calling them hotel nights or debauchery. But now we got Jonathan. Jonathan's calling Diddy. You got to respect Diddy, ever-changing. Whether he's Sean Combs, Sean Puff Daddy Combs, Puff Daddy, Diddy, P. Diddy, all of Love. He's now going by, he's always rebranding. So even the fuck fests get rebranded every couple of months. So we learn all about King's Nights today from Jonathan Perez. All right, let's get started with Special Agent Lamont. It says here, the jury saw photos of items that authorities say were found in nightstands in the master bedroom of Sean Diddy Combs' L.A. home during the Homeland Security raid. Oh, this is the L.A. home. I'm sorry. I mislabeled it the Florida home. Doesn't matter. There were two raids. They went on simultaneously. All right, so that's who we're hearing from. We're hearing from Officer or Agent Lamont, who was in charge of the L.A. raid that night. All right, let's see here. What does it say? What did he get into? Hold on, guys. I lost my place. That's not good. It's Google Drive. I hate Google Drive. I really do. Kanye showed up today. Yeah, we'll get into that. Kanye just showing up. You're making things worse, Kanye. All right. Jury saw photos of items that were taken from Diddy's Los Angeles home during the March 2024 raid. One of the nightstands contained 6 manila envelopes marked with a K, Lamont testified. A white powder in the bags tested positive for ketamine. Well, there you go. That's why it would be K. According to a stipulation read in court, the jury saw these photos of items that were inside a safe in one of the master closets. Combs' passports and a plastic bag with a brown substance were inside the safe. The brown substance then tested posthumously for MDMA. There you go. So he's got ketamine, he's got MDMA, passports, whatever. He's Diddy. I'm not shocked by any of this stuff. He's not being charged for possession of ketamine or MDMA. It says here, authorities also recovered about 200 bottles of baby oil and 900 bottles of personal lubricant. Yeah, apropos of nothing other than, let's just humiliate him again. People like to snicker about the baby oil consumption going on in that house. The jury saw a photo of at least 16 boxes full of lubricants in Diddy's garage. Well, isn't that nice? Look at that. That's one of them. He puts his pants on just like us, one leg at a time. Diddy's also got a garage filled with just junk. Garbage. The jury saw a photo of 16 boxes in the garage filled with lubricants. They also saw a photo of a bag of baby oil and a lubricant next to a pack of lingerie that were recovered from a closet near the master bedroom. Okay. Lingerie. Okay. Sweatpants too. I mean, they also found some weapons. Agent Lamont testified that some weapons. Oh, he had weapons. He's got weapons. They're all legal. There's not one gun charge. Oh, the one, I don't see this gun charge, but one of the weapons that were recovered had serial numbers scratched off. Okay, isn't that like a big in and of itself federal charge that I don't see him being charged with? The jury saw photos of 6 firearms, magazines, and ammunition that were found in a security room in the home. And that's important, security room. It's another detail that the defense is going to want to make perfectly clear. He didn't have guns scattered all over the place like some outlaw hooligan. These guns that were recovered from Diddy's Los Angeles home were recovered from safes inside the security room, which is overseen by a highly paid professional security staff. So when they talk about the guns that they found, one, perfectly legal in this country to be a rich guy who has a lot of guns. That's the norm in this country. Secondly, does need to be noted that these guns were not strewn about. They were actually cared for professionally and in a secure manner. Special Agent Lamont testified that when he arrived, agents responsible for securing the home had already laid out the firearms and removed their magazines in accordance with standard procedures. So Lamont is saying that before he didn't know where the guns were, but they were in the security room. He walked in, they were all laid out. Why were they laid out? Well, because the advance team that goes in on these raids, they go in and their first priority is people, making sure that all the people are accounted for and that there's no danger. And if there are guns on the scene, the first wave takes all of the guns and places them in one spot and takes out that's just the way they do it. So Lamont, who's on the stand, he's showing up and they're like, where were the guns strewn about? And he's like, there was a team that went in there first that, strewn them about. So again, making clear. It says here the firearms were laid out according to procedures. Lamont said the security room had a firearm safe and that agents also found 2 locks and a bag. 4 of the guns were rifles. One was a pistol and one was a shotgun, according to Agent Lamont. Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lead defense attorney, jumps up. He gets a shot here to cross-examine Special Agent Lamont. Apparently, the prosecution didn't really want all that much from him. So here we go with the cross. And, of course, Mark Agnifilo. When asked, Agent Lamont confirmed under cross-examination he's aware that a security team protects Combs' residence and that there is a designated security room where all firearms were recovered. No guns or ammunition were found anywhere in the home other than the security office, Lamont confirmed. Lamont testified that the serial number on one of the rifles appeared to have been scratched or sanded off. See, now that's a federal crime, right? No charge for that. Maybe it's because he thinks it appears to have been sanded off. Agents also seized a drum magazine compatible with rifles. Lamont testified that the drum magazines typically hold larger amounts of ammunition. The drum magazine could hold 60 rounds, and 59 rounds of green tip ammunition were found in that magazine. I don't know what any of this means. I assume these are all legal because he doesn't have a bunch of gun charges he's facing. He doesn't. He's got these much larger, lofty charges that are so nuanced and probably difficult to really prove. Let's see here. Lamont said that green tip ammunition that Diddy was in possession of is designed to penetrate body armor. Okay, is that legal? I don't know what's legal. I think everything's legal in this country. I can have a nuke if I want, right? Because America. I don't know if that's legal or illegal. He's a rich guy. Don't the rules, different rules for rich guys, right? Rich guys can have anything. Like you're a hillbilly contractor who's been laid off 6 months. Cops come into your house, find one of these green tip ammunition things. You go to jail forever and your kids' lives and your grandkids' lives are fucked because grandpa went to jail. Not a rich guy. Diddy's got a room full of this shit. He's facing trial on other shit. They don't even mention this. Isn't that illegal? Aren't armor-piercing bullets illegal? Why isn't that a charge? All right, and they take a little break for lunch, and actually, they didn't take a break for lunch yet. They had to take a break lunch after this. So in the middle of all this cross-examination of gun talk, ladies and gentlemen, Kanye West. In the middle of all this, Kanye comes sauntering into the courtroom. Kanye West arrived at the courthouse. He's dressed in all white and wearing sunglasses. Says here that West has been in touch with Diddy about possibly attending Combs' ongoing trial just to show his support. West nodded and said yes when a reporter asked if he's there to support Combs, but he didn't answer other questions. West was directed to an overflow room where he sat next to Diddy's son. So, okay. So let's do this. So yesterday, if you were joining us for night 22, we broke down a party that was the source of great discussion and argument between Diddy and Jane, who testified yesterday. Jane went to a party in Las Vegas with another big-time rap star who was described as an iconic rap star. She went on a private jet with this rap star, this iconic rap star, and his girlfriend / wife. She wasn't sure. I don't know, what a girlfriend or wife. Because it was the girlfriend or wife's birthday party, and they were going to Vegas to party. Jane and her probably fellow smoke show friend, Instagrammer. Jane was no longer, she was on a break from Diddy. So when the offer came to go with this other rapper, she was like, okay. So she went with the other rapper and her friend, and they went to Vegas and they partied. While in Vegas, it was revealed to Jane that this other rapper, who is, again, iconic in the industry and close friends with Diddy, it was revealed to Jane that this other rapper, unnamed, is also into freak-offs. Remember, Diddy was mad? You went to another man's freak-off? I can't believe you went to another man's freak. Remember that from yesterday? Okay. Very sensitive subject for Diddy. So, that was yesterday. And we were trying to figure it out. We're like, okay, first of all, they went to Vegas in January for the wife / girlfriend's birthday of this iconic rapper. So I immediately went, Jay-Z, right? Jay-Z. But Jay-Z, here's the problem with Jay-Z. Everybody knows that Jay-Z has a wife, okay? Nobody is going to describe Jay-Z taking his girlfriend to Vegas for her birthday, okay? First of all, it's Beyonce, okay? So Beyonce is arguably bigger than Jay-Z. So, that's not a thing. Jane wouldn't hiccup on the trial going, I don't know, what, girlfriend, whatever. Also, Beyonce's birthday is in September, so Jay-Z wouldn't be flying her off to Vegas in January. Okay. So I'm trying to figure out who this iconic rapper is. So this is 2023. Yesterday, we're talking about it. Today, Kanye shows up. Kanye shows up yesterday. Why today? Why did he show up today? Was his ears ringing from? Guys, I am telling you, I fully believe that the rapper who was not named, the iconic rapper who was also engaging in freak-offs, that Jane went on a private plane with to Las Vegas, is Kanye. I believe it's Kanye. He showed up today. All right, so how about a little bit more? Oh, what do you mean? All right, Kanye. Nobody knows what that was between him and Bianca Censori. He said he was married. Then they weren't married, and now they're not together anymore, but we don't. Whatever that was with Bianca Censori, we don't know, right? So that would fit that description of an iconic rapper and his girlfriend or wife. We're not sure. Okay, so that fits Kanye and Bianca Censori. Also, a little research. And by research, I say I asked Google. Bianca Censori's birthday is in January. Bianca Censori, I believe, is Kanye's freak-off girl. And yep, so there we had it. So anyway, so Kanye arrives today after, people talking about that, not saying his name, but his ear was ringing. Kanye's like, rrr. So Kanye shows up today. All right, he only stayed for like 40 minutes. He showed up and then he left. Big stir when he showed up, interrupting everything. Then he leaves after like 40 minutes. So he wasn't there for the whole thing. He was just making an appearance. Let's see here. What else do we have? So I think this was before break, or was it just before lunch or whatever? But Comey, right? So the lead prosecutor, Comey complains again to the judge, right? Hey, time out, judge. Remember earlier in the week when the judge said that he would consider having Diddy removed if Diddy didn't stop nodding in appreciation towards the jurors whenever, Jane was. So anyway, that was a thing from earlier in the week. Well, now Comey's like, Judge, he's doing it again. Judge Aaron Subramanian referenced a discussion the lawyers had last week after the judge said that he saw Combs looking at the jury and nodding. The judge said that he believed both sides have since made the boundaries clear to their respective teams. Judge says there's going to be some amount of reaction to testimony that is given, and it is impossible to police every reaction from every person in this courtroom, the judge said. The judge reiterated that efforts to communicate with or influence the jury will not be allowed. Combs nodded when the judge said he'd advised no one should be attempting to influence the jury. All right. It's crazy we got to say that, but there you go. We got to say that. Also, it should be mentioned earlier in the week, there was a discussion. concerning juror number 6. Do you remember juror number 6? I believe it was the prosecution who raised the issue of juror number 6 possibly being replaced because of candor issues. Apparently, they found something out about juror number 6, a 41-year-old black man who lives in Brooklyn. He works for the city jail system. Apparently, the prosecution had found something about his background where they felt that he wasn't being truthful. Lack of candor. The judge said that he would take a look at it and would rule by the end of the week. Well, the judge has ruled that there is no reason that he can see for juror number 6 to be removed at this time, although he does hold out the option to be able to interview juror number 6 in the future and then revise his decision. But for now, juror number 6 stays. Apparently, the issue had to do with an address. Juror number 6, when he was brought onto this jury and when he was selected to be a part of this jury, lived someplace, lived in Brooklyn, lived at a specific address. In the 3 weeks since then, juror number 6 has moved with his family to a different address. That was the problem that the prosecution had, and the judge said, people move. People move, all right? He's been sitting here the whole time. Of course, the defense, they were all up in arms about it. They were like, you, juror number 6, you just want him gone because he's a strong black man, and, it turned into that. But once again, kudos to Judge Aram Subramanian. Kept the train on the tracks, man. He didn't let them go off into the ditch. It was well done. All right, back to the trial. So we're done now. We're done hearing from the agent. He talked about what he found. He talked about the guns. He talked about the drugs. He talked about the baby oil. He was then cross-examined by Diddy's team. And now let's bring on the star of today. He is the 3rd, possibly 4th personal assistant. He's got a lot of personal assistants, Diddy does. We learn why that is. Jonathan Perez, ladies and gentlemen. Diddy has personal assistants 24 hours a day. They work 12-hour shifts. Isn't that crazy? Like, you either work 9 to 9 at night or 9 at night to 9 in the morning. Good Lord. I imagine the 9 at night to 9 in the morning guys got a really rough go of it. The daytime dude, Diddy's probably sleeping. I imagine Diddy sleeps to about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. That's pretty good. You just got to deal with early morning Diddy, which is actually late afternoon Diddy. You just got to deal with that and dinner. Because I can't imagine that Diddy, unless, there's like an award show or something, I can't imagine he goes out before midnight, right? He's like late night club guy. Anyway, Jonathan Perez is going to tell us all about Diddy's world, and he got to it today. Perez said that he had worked for Combs between 2021 and 2024. Perez has immunity. We do need to point this out. Perez has immunity. Outside the presence of the jury, he invoked the Fifth Amendment, which triggered an immunity order signed by Judge Aram Subramanian in order to compel him to testify. So he's not a hostile witness, but he is being compelled to testify. He doesn't want to be talking shit on Diddy. Apparently, Jonathan likes Diddy. We'll get into that. This is the 4th witness to testify under immunity. George Kaplan, who was another one of Diddy's assistants, he also testified under an immunity agreement, as well as Brianna Bongolone. Remember Bongo? Remember Bogo? What did we call her? Bongo? She testified with immunity, as did Eddie Garcia. Remember Fast Eddie Garcia, the Intercontinental Security Guard who took the payoff and then still testified? Yeah. All right, so right about now, when they're getting into it with Jonathan, this is when Kanye leaves. So bye-bye, Kanye. Says here, Kanye West has just left the courthouse via the front entrance. He was seen getting into a car, which then drove away. Oh, really? And then what did it do? Did the driver hit the accelerator? Were both hands on the wheel? Seems like a little bit too much detail. He arrived at the courthouse about 40 minutes ago. He was asked if he was there to support Sean Diddy Combs, and he nodded yes. Okay, so we know that. All right, let's get back to Jonathan. Jonathan Perez, former assistant to Diddy, is on the trial. He lets loose another little bit of information that we didn't have before. He called them King's Nights. That's right. They're not freak-offs. They're not debauchery. They're not hotel nights, as Jane told us. No, Jonathan called them King's Nights. Jonathan Perez testified that his starting salary working with Diddy was $85K a year, and that later he made as much as $100K a year. Christina Koram, we've heard of KK. Christina Koram, she's like the lead bitch in that household. She's in charge of all. She is his executive assistant, which is different than his personal assistant. Christina Karam, who was at this time titled Combs' chief of staff, was Jonathan Perez's direct supervisor. Karam and Combs seemed to have a good working relationship and, quote, some days, Jonathan said, seemed like they had a good personal relationship too. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. There he is suggesting that there's some kind of sexual shenanigans going on between KK and Diddy. Perez's typical hours, already told you this, his typical hours he worked 9 to 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And then another personal assistant would work the night shift once he was finished. He said that Combs typically had 3 or 4 personal assistants at a time. KK, Christina Karam, KK made Jonathan aware of king nights, which Perez described as Combs going to a hotel to have private time with a female. Jane, of course, we learned about her the last few days. Jane, who testified in this trial under a pseudonym and dated Combs from 2021 to 2024, would accompany Combs at these king nights while Perez worked for Combs elsewhere. When asked, Perez described Jane as Combs', quote, female friend and companion. I'm not sure exactly what she was. Ooh, that's got to hurt. That's got to hurt. Because remember, Jane was always upset about her place in Diddy's harem. And now you got Perez going, yeah, she wasn't special. She was a female friend, companion. I'm not sure. But he's certain that he's not going to call her his girlfriend or his number one girl or whatever. Combs staff would get anywhere from 2 hours to a full day's notice before setting up for a king's night. It says here, whichever assistant was working in the evening would typically set up the king night, Perez said. Perez typically worked during the day, so he estimates that he only set up about 5 king nights for Combs. Quoting him now from the stand, he says, it was a lot of packing materials, making sure that he was going to have everything that he'd need for the next 12 to 14 hours without having to bother anybody, Perez testified. Perez said that he would bring liquor, food, music, red light, condoms, lubricant, and sometimes honey, to which Jonathan Perez then let us all know that honey enhances a man's libido. Ooh, I did not know that, Jonathan. I don't think that's true. I'm not just going to believe you, Jonathan. Sounds like something you would just think because you're not that bright. Jonathan Perez, said he sometimes also went to sex stores to purchase adult outfits and high heels. He would pay for them on his company credit card or with cash that he got from security. Afterwards, he said he would clean up King's nights. Oh, his job was to clean that shit up. Oh, my God. The room, he said, would be just a bit of a mess and in disarray. Just a bit. He said, just like lots of sheets and towels and oils everywhere, he added. Jonathan Perez said his main purpose of cleaning up after a King's night was to make sure that no items were left behind. Phone chargers. Hey, Diddy, did you leave your charger? Shit like that. Perez said his main purpose of cleaning up was to make sure no items were left behind. Former assistant testified that Combs and his special guest would be tired when he saw them after a king night. Combs staff would typically arrange for a meal, maybe a massage. Diddy would often require an IV drip after a king night. What does he need an IV? Diddy's just jerking it. That Diddy's whole role in these freak-offs / king nights / hotel nights / debaucheries, his whole role was to jerk off and hold the camera. You need an IV for that, Diddy? Really? All right, jurors were then played some recordings. These were recordings between Christina Karam, KK, Diddy's executive assistant, and Jonathan Perez, Diddy's, at the time, personal assistant. The jury heard recordings in which KK, then Sean Diddy Combs' chief of staff, questioned then Combs' assistant, Jonathan Perez, about the discovery in Combs' Los Angeles home of sexually explicit videos of Jane and another man. The discussion involved how the video was found. Okay, so a little context for you here. So at one point during Jonathan Perez working for Diddy, he stumbled across an iPad. He opened the iPad and he hit play, and there was a video on there of a King's night, of a freak off, of Jane with another guy. Jonathan, in the course of his duty as personal assistant, knew that this wasn't the kind of thing that should be laying around. So he then went to Diddy and said, hey, look what I found. I want to make sure nobody else sees it. And Diddy was like, oh, I was like a little embarrassed, Jonathan testified. But then nothing came of it. Then he gets ambushed by KK, Christina Karam, who's like, whoa, where did you get that? So obviously, Jonathan found the tape, the video on the iPad, showed it to Diddy. Diddy acted too cool for the room, like he didn't know what it was, but really Diddy was freaking out inside. Diddy walks away from Jonathan. He calls Christina and is like, what the hell, girl? Where's this tape? So that starts a whole investigation. There was a recording, there was a phone conversation between Christina Karam and Jonathan Perez about this situation, and that's what the jury heard, okay? Karam told Perez that she had gotten a call from somebody outside of Diddy's company talking about a video in some capacity. In the recording, Karam asked Perez to tell her step by step about what happened when he found the video on the iPad because, quote, according to Karam, an outside person brought it up. No, Diddy brought it up, but right, she can't say, because remember, Diddy was cool with Jonathan Perez. Diddy was like, oh, yeah, man, that's not a big deal. Thanks for bringing that to my attention. But then Diddy, who really wasn't cool, called Christina. He's like, what the hell? Find out. So now Christina's calling Perez, and she's like, somebody else, not Diddy, said it. This is all such high school games. The popular kid makes all the calls. Let's see here. In the recording, Karam asked Perez to tell her step by step about how he found it. Perez told her that once he saw the video, he told Combs, hey, I found something on the iPad that the staff uses. I can lock it up for you. I can, delete it if you need. I just wanted you to make the decision, Jonathan Perez said to Diddy. He told Karam that Combs then decided to delete the video. So Diddy said to him, oh, we're just going to delete it. In the recording, Jonathan Perez told Christina Karam he didn't have any other conversations about the video with anybody. He also referenced a, quote, investigation that Christina and Diddy were doing. In the recording, Perez told Karam he didn't have any other conversations about the video. He also referenced the investigation. Perez testified that Combs thought his phone or data may have been compromised and that KK mentioned that Combs wanted an investigation to happen regarding the video and how it got on that particular device. Perez, Jonathan Perez, the assistant, said that he didn't know if an investigation ever actually happened. Just kind of went away. In the recording, Perez told Karam that he thought the video looked like it was set up and filmed on that iPad. Perez said that he never spoke to Karam about it again, but at some point after that, Combs' head of security, Fahim Muhammad, I bet that's a big dude. I bet you Fahim Muhammad's huge. He just sounds huge. Fahim Muhammad asked him, Perez, about the day the video was found. Perez testified that he relayed the same story to the security guard that he told Karam, and it never came up again. Jonathan Perez testified that Combs' chef, Chef K, was also in the room when the video was found, but he didn't mention it to anyone. Yeah, that's because Chef K knows how to play the game. Chef K knows to keep your damn mouth shut. Chef K knows that just finding that is going to get you on Diddy's shit radar. And you don't want to be on Diddy's shit radar. See, Jonathan found it and he's like, I'm going to run this to Diddy and I'm going to show him how I'm looking out for him. But really all it did was make Diddy suspicious of him. Not Coach K, not Chef K. Chef K knew to keep his mouth shut. Just keep stirring the sauce, man. Keep stirring the sauce, Chef K. You don't need none of this smoke. Let's see here. Madison Smizer, prosecutor, is now taking the run of it. She's showing the jury a photo of a Gucci pouch. She's there with Jonathan. She's like, hey, jury, look at this picture. So now the jury has been shown a Gucci pouch, and Jonathan, Diddy's assistant's got to explain what this Gucci pouch is. Perez says that Combs had it with him all the time during King's nights, and it's where he would typically keep his drugs and his cash. So the prosecutor's like, look at this Gucci. It's a purse. It's a man purse. And he's like, what did he keep in there? And he's like, drugs and cash. That's it, buddy. Jonathan Perez then went on to talk about how he acquired drugs for Diddy. He was sometimes Diddy's drug dude. Jonathan Perez says here, got drugs including Xanax, cocaine, and Molly from a dude named Guido and someone else named Baby Girl. I bet Baby Girl's a club DJ. She probably got like the best Molly. Oh, Baby Girl. You got to get that Baby Girl Molly. Nah, Guido's been stepping on his shit, man. Guido, don't call Guido. Call Baby Girl. He mentioned that those were the two people that he bought drugs from. I think one can only hope that we will hear from a Guido or a baby girl at some point during this trial. I don't know. He says that he would pay for the drugs with cash that he got from either Combs directly or Combs security personnel. He would also sometimes take cash out of the aforementioned Gucci pouch or a top drawer. Apparently, he had a top drawer filled with money. The jury then saw a message that, according to prosecutors, Jonathan Perez sent to one of Combs' security guards, Fahim, back in February of 2024. Perez testified that Fahim usually handled cash for Combs. In the message, Perez said, in part, $700 of the money you gave me went to Guido. Apparently, couldn't get a hold of Baby Girl. Remember this, Perez is testifying under immunity, so he can say whatever he wants about, drugs and buying drugs and all that kind of stuff because he's got immunity. All right, so now let's get into part 2 of what we really went deep with yesterday. The fight that occurred on June 18th, 2024 at Jane's home. If you remember, during the course of this, it started out with dinner, and then there was, who's this girl that you went to Miami with? And then there was screaming, you're a pedophile. And he's chasing her around the house. She's locking herself in rooms. He's kicking in doors. Finally, she gets out. She runs out of the house. She runs 2 miles away in a rainstorm and hides out for a while before returning home to her home Diddy is paying for, but it is still her home. So she returns home. Diddy's there. They start fighting again. This is where she punches him in the face on the patio, to which he finally gets physical with her and hits her twice. That turns into a beatdown. Then she steals his phone. This is the fight that we learned about yesterday. Then she steals his phone. She's apparently bloodied because he punched her in the face. She steals his phone and she FaceTimes another one of his girlfriends. Remember? This turns into a whole thing. Then Diddy takes the phone back, and then Diddy calls who? Jonathan Perez, who's on the stand today. Remember this from yesterday? Diddy called his assistant and was like, tell her that this girl wasn't on the trip. And then Jonathan Perez is like, she wasn't on the trip. Okay. And then after all of that, there was the shower where Diddy was taking a shower in his clothes, but she was naked and he beat her up in there. And then he made her have a freak off, but the freak off was bad. She only gave oral to Antoine. And it was a mess. That whole night was a mess. All right, so now we're getting Jonathan Perez's side of that night. Jonathan Perez, remember, was called in the middle of this fight. Jonathan Perez testified that he dropped off items at Jane's house early on June 18th to set them up for one of their King's nights. So, remember, Jane thought she was just having dinner. She thought it was just dinner, and then she got triggered by a picture of Diddy with another girl. That's what Jane thought. Jane testified that this wasn't intended to be a freak-off night. However, now we've got Jonathan Perez testifying that no, she knew it was a freak-off night. I showed up early. I brought all the baby oil and the bacon, or I don't know what they want. Whatever they got. I imagine there's probably bacon. I like bacon. Bacon would be good. Some scrambled eggs. Any good, post-sex buffet that includes breakfast foods, I'm all for. All right, so he's saying now on the stand, he's like, no. That whole night was supposed to be a freak off, and I dropped stuff off. So he says he dropped stuff off early at Jane's house on June 18th, 2024 for the freak off. A few hours later, Diddy called him on FaceTime. This is the fight. Remember, would you tell this crazy woman that other crazy woman wasn't with me on vacation? Remember, he did that to try and, win the argument. A few hours later, Combs called on FaceTime and seemed angry and annoyed. His voice was raised, Perez testified. Perez said, he was asking me to confirm whether or not another female had been on a trip that we went on the week prior. Perez said. Perez told Combs no, and Combs thanked him before hanging up. Perez then testified that he saw Jane on the call, but her back was to the camera, so he never really saw her face, and she didn't speak. The entire call lasted about 20 seconds. The jury saw messages between Jonathan Perez and Combs' then chief of staff, Christina Karam, and security guard Fahim around the same time of this incident. Okay, so the fight's going on. Crazy fight is going on between Jane and Diddy. They're running around. He's kicking indoors. Crazy fight's going on. Jonathan suddenly gets looped into this on FaceTime. Would you tell this crazy woman that this other girl wasn't on this trip? To which he goes, no, she wasn't on the trip. So Jonathan hangs up with Diddy, and he immediately goes into personal assistant. I got to get the team together. Calls Christina, calls security. And he says, some shit's going on. We need to know about this. It's going on right now over there between Diddy and Jane. The jury saw messages between Perez and Combs' then chief of staff, Christina Karam, and Combs' head of security, Fahim. Heads up, he texted, they are fighting. I'm about to head back and pick him up, Perez texted. Perez also told Fahim that Combs wanted him to bring cash. All right. So after this fight, Jonathan Taylor, remember we heard that Combs got picked up by his people. That just ended. She only gave oral to Antoine. They didn't have sex, her and Diddy, afterwards. It was very uncharacteristic of their freak-offs. And then somebody came and picked up Diddy and he left. Okay, so that's what we knew from Jane's point of it. All right, so now we know Diddy called Jonathan and said, get over here. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. But he also told him to bring $3,500. This is something that we didn't learn yesterday. $3,500 for this fight. In a separate group message with Combs, Fahim and Perez said that Diddy needs $3,500 ASAP for his guest. I'm going to take it to her. Perez testified that he was referring to Jane in the message. So after this fight, Diddy just gave her $3,500 and was like, here's $3,500. She didn't testify to that yesterday. It says, remember here, here's a note. Remember, Jane, who dated Combs from 2021 to 2024 and testified in this trial under the pseudonym Jane, said extensively that she was in a major physical altercation with Combs at her rented LA home on the night that Perez just testified about. The argument has involved Jane accusing Combs of being with another woman on a trip she testified. She got $3,500 out of that. Then he's like, here's $3,500. He treated these women like they were prostitutes. That's what this is. It seems like he's constantly just giving them money. Former assistant says the last time that he talked to Combs was the day that he was arrested. Okay, so they asked Jonathan Perez, so why'd you stop working for Diddy? And he's like, he got arrested. He stopped needing a personal assistant. He's probably got a new guy in prison, but, not doing the same things I'm doing. So that's why he quit. So once again, here's another guy. He would still be with Diddy. He would still be in Diddy's universe. Jane, who was on the stand for like 5 days, and it turns out she still loves Diddy, even though he, apparently did all these monstrous things to her. She still loves him. She only broke up with him because he got arrested too. These people are like, yeah, the state broke us up. It says here, Smizer asked Perez how he feels about Combs now. So Madison Smizer, the prosecutor, right? She's got this guy on the stand. She's like, how do you feel after all this, after all you've been through with him? How do you feel about Diddy now? Right? The response that she wants is, I think he's a monster, and I think somebody needs to lock him away so he can stop doing this stuff. That's the response the prosecution wants. Do you know what the prosecution got? Smizer asked Perez how he feels about Combs now. Here's the quote. I feel great about him, the same way I felt about him when I was leaving my employment. Perez responded. Jesus. Can't even. Why would you even ask that question if you weren't entirely sure that you were going to get a response that could help your case in proving that he's a monster? But no, you didn't. You asked the question and instead you get, he's great. How do you feel about Diddy? Well, seriously, I mean, given all of this that we're going through, he's freaking great, man. I like him. He's funny. He's nice. He's really good with kids. Have you ever seen him with little kids? Little kids love him. I mean, seriously, why are we trotting these people out? Why are they testifying? Supposed witnesses for the prosecution's making Diddy out to be like, he's a bit of a perv. You know, don't we all have a friend who's kind of a perv? Oh, my God. All right, so now we're going to do some cross. All right, prosecution has had their time with Jonathan Perez. Now we're going to bring in the big guns from the defense to actually do their cross. It says here, Perez confirmed. It says here, Perez confirmed. Brian Steele, by the way. It's now Brian Steele for the defense who's doing the cross-examination. Perez confirmed that he would help Jane pick out lingerie, heels, and dresses for her. Jane trusted Perez with his opinion of what to buy. Perez confirmed. So he's gay. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess I hadn't really thought about that. I think that, you know, if you're a male, well, see, but we saw the other dude personal assistants for Diddy, and they didn't seem, like I said, I described one of them as looking like a driver's ed teacher, a math teacher. They didn't look. Jonathan Perez, I'm guessing, is gay. Here's why. Why is he gay? One, apparently Jane's very comfortable talking to him about sex. All right. I don't know. We don't know what Jane looks like, but we can all imagine she's a smoke show. A smoke show chick probably doesn't get into like really nitty gritty details about sex with straight dudes. Straight dudes can't handle that. Straight dudes be like, just stop it. Stop talking about it. But I'm guessing Jonathan Perez is gay. So Jonathan Perez could probably break down all of that stuff. And, you wouldn't have the same reaction that a heterosexual man would getting dirty talked by some real sketchy Instagram smoke show. So he's gay. Okay, because he's also picking out outfits for it. That's not something that I think, Muhammad, the giant security guard, is doing. No. So it says here that Brian Steele asked Perez if Jane ever appeared hesitant to go to a King's night. To which Jonathan Perez says, no, not at all. She's actually kind of into it. Steele also asked Perez to confirm that Jane seemed like a, quote, willing participant in King's nights. Perez also answered yes. Perez also confirmed when asked that Jane never seemed upset or unhappy after a King's night. There you go. All right, well, defense scoring some points there. They're talking to somebody who was there. Did she ever seem upset? Did she ever say, no, not a damn, seemed like she was totally down for it. Defense attorney Brian Steele has turned to Jonathan Perez's previous testimony about a staffer finding the iPad at Combs' LA home. Remember this? This is the dirty iPad. This is the iPad with. So Brian Steele is now going to revisit that the prosecution went into. It says here, Steele asked Perez if the concern about the video centered on the fact that a personal private sex tape was on a business iPad. Perez agreed with that. Perez said, yeah, that was the concern. It was like, why is this should be hidden away? Why is it so accessible? Perez estimated that he spent about 1% of his time working for Combs, dealing with personal matters like setting up for King's nights and obtaining drugs. When asked about Combs' understanding of technology, I love this. This is funny because Combs is a 55-year-old man. When asked about Combs' understanding of technology, Perez said, he wasn't the most proficient when it came to technology. Look at him. He's just like us. He's just like us. Puts his pants on one leg at a time. It's funny. Diddy's not so great. Diddy's not so good. Well, what do I got to download? What do I got to pull? He's great. He's like me. Diddy's just like us. Jonathan Perez confirmed that Diddy and the people close to the rapper never told him not to speak about things such as King's nights or drugs. So he also testified that nobody was ever like, you don't talk about this. They're all, which I don't know what that's about. Maybe it's just such a natural part of their environment that it's just weird. Like when you go out to dinner with your friends and their wives, you don't go, hey, let's talk about what kind of creepy sex you're getting into. You don't do it. It's not a thing. So maybe in Diddy's universe, this kind of sexual exploits is just so natural and normal that you would be weird for bringing it up, that it's weird. Like if you think it's weird, you're weird. And in that, anyway, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know that there needed to be an explicit sort of order of we don't talk about King's nights. Let's see here. He confirmed that none of the people close to Diddy had ever told him not to speak about such things. Let's see. He also confirmed, Jonathan Perez, that they only told him to tell the truth about his experience with Diddy. Again, there you go. There you go. This guy is supposed to be a weapon for the prosecution. And he's like, yeah, no, they're good people. Yeah, no, they just, when I left, they were like, you know, people going to ask you questions about your time with Diddy. Just tell the truth. Just, you know, just don't. Nothing is scoring for the prosecution. Nothing. Let's see. In some texts, they planned for King nights, including packing items like underwear. So he would have to pack underwear for Diddy. And another message, they discussed tasks for Perez to do for Diddy. Steele asked Perez, Steele is the defense attorney, Steele asked Perez to confirm that on all those occasions, Jane did not seem upset with Diddy. I guess he confirmed that. All right. So that's it. So he confirmed it. Jane was never upset. So Brian Steele sits down. Now Madison Smizer, one of the prosecutors, she's jumping up. She's like, I got to get involved in this. You can't just say that. Your Honor, you got to let me redirect cross, or whatever the hell we're at now. I'm not sure. But Smizer asked Perez whether getting items for Jane, you know, going to the sex shop and buying cute outfits for her, Smizer asked him, was that part of your job? Because let's see, it says getting items for Jane was part of his job, to which Perez said, yeah, it was part of my job. She said, was your title personal assistant or business assistant? Smizer asked. Personal assistant, Jonathan Perez answered. He confirmed that his job included doing personal things for Combs, such as writing cards and buying gifts and flowers for his girlfriends and setting up sex parties. That's just me adding it, but that is a personal thing. Let's see here. He previously testified that he spent only about 1% of his time working for Combs, dealing with personal matters. It says here, Jonathan Perez testified that Christina Karam, KK, remember his executive assistant, his chief of staff, Perez testified that KK told him to set up for the King's Nights. So she would let him know. She'd be like, hey, he's doing another King's Night. You need to get started. He confirmed that he did not set them up for free, that it was a part of his job, and that he never set them up when he was not working or on vacation. All right, so now Smizer sits down, right? But now we got Brian Steele again for the defense. It's like, Your Honor, I must interject. And so now we got some recross examination. Brian Steele is now back. They are just knocking him around. He's like a little ball of yarn, and there are a couple of kittens just, you got the prosecution smacking him one way, and then the defense smacks him the other. Steele asked Perez to confirm that company accounts sorted were the reimbursement funds came from when he bought things for. All right, so he's asking about how did you get reimbursed? When you would go to the sex shop and you would buy, you would buy stuff for, Diddy and Jane's freak nights or whatever we're calling them. Perez confirmed that he doesn't know whether his expenses were reimbursed with Combs' personal funds or company funds. And, I get that. Like, how would I don't know. I'm his personal assistant, man. I spent like $50 on takeout and he gave me $50. What do you mean? Was that from his personal or his, I don't know. I don't know. All right. What else do we have here? Brian Steele questioned him under cross-exam. What else? I guess that's it. Yeah, they pretty much let him sit down there. There were a couple of things that happened before court that we didn't mention. Defense attorney Mark Agnafilo argued that one of the agents who initially recovered the guns, remember we heard today from one of the agents. So before that agent testified, the defense wanted this guy to testify about exactly where they found the guns. Because remember, there was this problem. There was an advance team that went in first, acquired all the guns, set them up on the floor of the security room, And that's when the agent who testified today walked in. That's procedure. The first team gets the guns, disarms them, sets them all up so you know where the guns are. So Brian Steele wanted, before court started today, he wanted that guy to be forced to testify that those guns were locked up and secured. Brian Steele, before we went, or I'm sorry, was this Agnifilo or Steele? It was Agnifilo. Agnifilo, the lead defense. He wanted it absolutely clear to the jury that Diddy Combs was a responsible gun owner. All right. Well, that's it. So tomorrow, Monday, I guess. Yeah, we got a break for the weekend. They let him out. Again, this court is being run like a steel trap. Congratulations to Judge Aram Subramaniam, who has taken us through, I mean, just magnificently, the first 5 weeks of this trial. We'll be back on Monday for more. Like, follow, subscribe. I am Pugs Moran. This is Diddy or Didn't He, and you are watching Radio Misfits, radiomisfits.com.